There's a box of Twinkies in that grocery store. Not just any box of Twinkies. The last box of Twinkies that anyone will enjoy in the whole universe. Believe it or not, Twinkies have an expiration date. Someday very soon, life's little Twinkie gauge is gonna go empty.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
This is blasphemy. This is madness. This is the booth.
Staring down, looking at the blood-stained concrete. You're the dead MC, lying at my feet. You took a 9mm rhyme straight to your mind. Damn, my better split. This is my time, so I make my way up the block. Get to home base and lock that crack the Cavassier and grab the phone. Call one of my troops up. Hope the soldier's homie says, yo, what's up, what's going on? Make it quick, cause I'm trying to get my Stella on. Nigga, your girl, I'm in the... These lyrical assassins tried to pull a hit, and then boom, came a noise from the other room. It was the boys in blue with the SWAT crew. They got us locked up for lyrical murder. It's one of them charges that you never heard of. It's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, we're killing all your podcasts like the HIV virus. You want to battle this kid? Huh, don't even try this. Back the up, think again, count to 10. You want to grab that mic just to get done in? It's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth. All right, your boy Sinister One broadcasting live from the city of champions. You are listening to The Booth. I'm going to make sure that I don't mess up my wire here tonight because we got a good show. We're back on the air. We got a lot of NFL talk, so we're definitely going to spend a lot of time on that. So we're going to get a lot of little stuff out of the way real quick and get through it. We have some breaking news before we've gone on the air. And I've got some other stuff to talk about. I'm looking at our pre-group chat stuff and the little discussion that me and Ken had today about this whole thing that happened in Hawaii. We're going to talk about, but there was something really funny that happened in the chat. But breaking story: John Jones, MMA fighter, UFC, who was stripped of his title after beating Dan Cormier about, I want to say it was about 6 months ago. He was stripped of his title because he had came up dirty for PEDs. And, at that time, there was a lot of debate going on. A lot of people were like, wow, why would a guy who was able to get another shot at the championship, why would he take PEDs again and this and that? And he's an idiot and blah, blah, blah. But John Jones stuck his ground and he said he didn't take it. And if it's in his system, it was done without his knowledge. The results of John Jones's polygraph lie detector test has come back. John Jones is cleared of any knowledge from this test of knowing or being aware of the steroids in this system. Now, this goes back. Now, first of all, I just got to ask Ken, or I'll ask with this real quick. Is a polygraph lie detector test held up in the court of law?
Absolutely not.
Not? Okay.
It is deemed to be scientifically unreliable. Keywords there. First of all, polygraphs, what people don't understand about polygraphs is, it's not like it comes out with a statement, he's lying or telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, what most people will tell you, and these are people who are experts in polygraph, is depending on the question, you can get different results.
Right. So my next question to ask you, because this does open a lot of people's eyes in sports, because John Jones had claimed from day one after this second test failure, he said he was unaware. So now this polygraph test comes out, it says he's telling the truth. Which means, who knows, he could have practiced or whatever and prepared himself for this test.
No, stop. It's not what polygraphs say.
Mm-hmm.
Polygraph, this is one of the biggest mistakes people have about polygraphs. Mm-hmm. They don't say you're telling the truth. They say there's an absence of deception. No, excuse me. Even I'm getting it wrong. They say there's an absence of detectable deception. huge difference.
Well, you need to tell that to what's his name on Maury Povich, because they say true or false when they're giving the lie detector test on baby daddies.
I'm sure they do.
I'm just using true or false just for this case of this story. So he passed the polygraph test. That's what we can say. We can say he passed it, correct?
No. That's what I'm saying. What people don't understand about polygraphs is it's not a pass-fail system.
Mm-hmm.
A polygraph is designed to detect deception.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't detect it doesn't mean he's not lying. It means you just can't detect it. Because the way the polygraph works, it measures certain involuntary bodily functions, namely brain waves and blood pressure. And the theory is, and this is a theory that's been pretty much rebuked, that people, when they lie, give off involuntary signals that can be detected. The problem is what they have found out is people on certain parts of the mental spectrum, mainly psychopaths and sociopaths, can pass lie detectors because they don't give off these mental cues, and people with highly disciplined personalities can beat lie detectors.
Mm-hmm.
So
one could say in MMA, but again, what's happening?
A guy who's able to do that kind of training probably could beat a lie detector. Now, maybe he's also telling the truth. I'm just saying is just because someone says they did not pick up deception doesn't mean he passed it. And that's the other thing is, remember, it isn't like if you look at a polygraph, it looks like Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this happen. One reason it's not scientifically unreliable. They've given results to different polygraphers who looked at the same exact results, come up with two different conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Some will say he's showing deception. Some are saying he's not. So that's the problem.
Well, the problem here now is that the MMA doping and the regulations is the group that handles this is going to look at this because they are taking the results seriously because he has denied. Now, here's the thing. It depends how this all goes because you have to remember, let's rewind back to when me and you were on Kevin Tachi's show way back when we had discussed that there is a possibility of these players who were denying that they knew anything about the steroids or PEDs in their system in the MLB. And, like I said before, these teams pay trainers millions of dollars to take care of players. And a lot of times you're going to trust that trainer for whatever he's putting into your system. How do the players know what is really being put into their systems or not? And that's my question.
Right. That
goes back to this whole story now. Right.
And the other thing is, when they take these substances, they don't label them PEDs. They give them the technical name for it. And frankly, I would agree that most players, even if they know they're taking performance-enhancing drugs, you ask them, are you taking blah, 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 they'll say no because they've never heard of it because no one bothered to tell them what it was.
Well, I'm gonna keep an eye on this story because the MMA is taking this result seriously.
Now, here's the other thing that I think was that the people lost in the shuffle, and this upsets me. Mm-hmm. The problem, there are two problems with this. Number one, we don't know we know certain PEDs, the big ones, anabolic steroids, amphetamines. Mm-hmm. But there's also these other drugs taken in combination that can have the effects of PEDs, but people didn't ingest them for that purpose. So, such
as Sudafed. Sudafed can give you a false positive, which they've now changed the thing. Right. The problem is in baseball, there's so many millions of dollars at stake. A lot of these teams, and I've always kind of felt this. I've always said that Bud Selig was the Nino Brown of Major League Baseball from New Jack City. I've always felt that it starts with Bud Selig. And then it goes from the owners down to these players. And I feel that the teams will pressure these guys, or I hate to say it, I feel that teams may inject players with or give players things without their knowledge. I hate to say it. It's a multi-million-dollar business, and there's a lot at stake, man. It wouldn't surprise me if this is what was going on.
No, if you're saying what,
go ahead, R-Squared.
I was just going to say that the thing that I think all sports that want to do testing have to reconcile is to very clearly have a statement of responsibility as to who's responsible for this issue. For example, the players, as you guys were just saying, may be told they're taking something and not realize that it falls under the category of a steroid or a PED, or they may be asked about a technical name and they know it by a local name or something like that. And so they could be telling the truth when, in fact, they took something they shouldn't be taking. The question is responsible for that. If these players are taking anything, is it their responsibility to do the research because they're the ones who are being tested and they're the ones whose career at stake? Is it the responsibility of a physical therapist or a physician or whoever is arranging for these things? Because let's face it, they're the ones who are supposed to know better, and they're the ones who are recommending or providing it to the athletes. And then the question becomes, is it too broad of a category of things that they're regulating? So I think all sports that do testing need to address some of these issues, because at the end of the day, I don't know that the teams are doing it per se, but certainly the personal trainers and physical therapists and people that the players are relying upon certainly are at least making recommendations or something. And it's a big mess, quite frankly, because there probably are some people that didn't intend to take something, but part of me, the skeptic in me says the majority of them, I think, knew or were willfully blind to it.
Ken, I believe we had this was a homework assignment for you a while back, and we weren't able to follow up on it. But I believe we did have because you did have some people that you were going to ask regarding who is responsible. When we were actually, what it was, we were discussing the 50-game suspension for PEDs. Right. And the discussion was how would a guy take that knowing the risk of being suspended for 50 games? And the discussion came up was, if a guy was given this by a trainer or the team physician, and we were going to go back and try to find out who is accountable for what the players take. And we were going to find out, because I think your opinion in the matter was that you felt that it's the teams who should be responsible for what these physicians and them give out to the players.
Right. And the answer is, it depends on the league. MLB and NFL require teams to keep very precise records of what they give, what players, and what doses when.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's say since the one they finally get around to firing Roger Goodell tomorrow, and they hire you as the commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you as the commissioner have the right to go to the New England Patriots or the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants and go to their trainer's office unannounced and say, let me see your logbooks for Eli Manning or Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
What have you given him in what doses on what dates? Now, if any of those banned substances show up in the blood and it's on that guy's list, well, then the team is held responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But then how come players are suspended in the NFL and MLB if the team should be held accountable?
Now, however, here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
if like Tom Brady, a number of other players have had their own private training regimes, which are permissible under the CBA.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if they find a substance that in their system that isn't on the team's list, well, it's assumed the player gave it to himself. Now, here's a $64,000 question.
Mm-hmm.
What team in the right mind is going to write down giving someone a banned substance?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Honor system, when I don't trust the NFL as far as I can throw it.
No, I don't trust the NFL. I don't trust the MLB. I don't trust any of these
now,
organizations.
The NBA is different. NBA says all the time the player's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That the player's responsible to find out what's going in his system.
Well, I don't think you have a steroid issue in the NBA, because I don't think steroids assists or aids a player in the NBA. I don't think.
No, it does in regard to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where they get most of the problems, is drugs that are related to painkillers or recovery drugs, building muscle after injuries. Again, less of a problem in the NBA, and I don't believe the NHL has a policy.
Mm-hmm.
They just basically make it up as they go along.
Yep.
Ironically, you know who has also a very strong anti-doping policy?
NASCAR, isn't it?
Well, NASCAR is one.
The Olympics
PGA
is coming up. What is?
The PGA has a very strong doping policy.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't believe that. The PGA.
Yep.
Apparently, that's a very big problem, the PGA. Have you ever heard of this, guys? I'm looking this up.
Yes. I believe Tiger Woods was caught up in that.
Right. Exactly. Very bravo, Sister One.
Yeah, Tiger Woods was caught up in that when he was trying to recover from his back injury.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so
double down their Wheaties this morning.
And e-gaming, the online video gaming professional.
That I did not know.
Yep. There was a team 2 years ago that lost their title because they were using Adderall, because Adderall allows them to concentrate during the competition matches better. They're able to focus in these gaming sessions.
Nothing sacred.
Yep, and they actually lost their title. The title went to the team, the runner-up team, and it was millions and millions of dollars were at stake. This team was, I believe, being paid by Red Bull, if I'm not mistaken. And just to mention, Overwatch League has started. The Overwatch Professional Gaming League has started. Bob Kraft has a team, so we have a team here in Massachusetts. So real quick, I got to ask you guys then. So say like if this does take off, and now the MLB Players Union now says, hey, we want to go this route now and have our guys start to be, polygraphed. Could that happen in the Major League Baseball this season? If these guys say, well, if a guy gets a 50-day suspension, we want to take a polygraph to prove this guy unwilling. You know what I'm saying? Where does this go if this happens?
Well, I haven't read the MLB's CBA, collective bargaining agreement. So I suppose if a guy wants to take a polygraph, there's nothing in there that says he can't. Whether the MLB has to honor it or not, that's a different story. I do think from a, bringing out the bully pulpit, it has, I think it would be, as we say in law, persuasive authority, not controlling authority. And I think if you got a guy that said, look, I'm going to do if they can convince the league to say, look, why don't we choose a neutral arbitrator to administer the polygraph, and we'll accept his results. I think you could say, okay, okay, fine, let's go find someone. I personally wouldn't do it because I don't believe in them, but that's the issue for another day. That's maybe the way to go. Look, let's find someone neutral.
Right. Well, let me give this.
Here's the thing. I will say this. The military and the intelligence agencies have been using polygraphs for years. I don't know if the colonel's ever polygraphed.
Well, that's why I want to throw this over to our squared, because he's actually down there in Florida where they get ready for these winter meetings and stuff. And I have this feeling that this discussion is going to come up in the MLB, because a lot of the guys in the MLB that were getting hit with these 50-day suspensions were saying, I didn't know, I was unaware, I don't know how this came up in my system. And again, millions and millions of dollars. The MLB is, from TV contracts to advertising, it's still America's game. Millions of dollars, and I got to put that to our square, because the military has used polygraph a lot more than in the legal world.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is I agree with what Diesel was saying. The MLB and the Players Union can bargain just about anything, and if they want to work out a system where polygraphs become required or optional or whatever else, and the results are become whatever level they want to announce them, it certainly probably won't be binding, but maybe highly persuasive. In my opinion, they're mildly persuasive. But they can certainly do that, make adjustments going forward. I don't think that the numbers are high enough that it would preclude the use of some kind of polygraph firm who I'm sure would love to make money off of Major League Baseball. So that may be a way to save face. I don't know that it solves the problem, but it certainly creates a level of protection if the players feel that that's what they want to do. I'm not sure, but
I would say how many players got the 50-game suspension last year, and I think you'd go from there. And I believe we have more than 10 players were suspended for 50 games last year. I'm not up on my baseball suspensions, but
I didn't think it was 10, but maybe you're right. But what I'm saying is it's not hundreds where they couldn't possibly keep up with the demand. So, they don't all happen at the same time. So they can certainly have an agreed-upon organization conducted in some kind of consistent manner and agree what the results will mean. You asked me about the military perspective. Well, polygraphs have been used for a very long time in the intelligence community, the CIA and the defense intelligence and everybody else, and the military for top secret clearances. There are a lot of things where you have to be polygraphed as part of your security clearance to make sure on the questions about susceptibility to blackmail and certain other things. They don't obviously go through everything because you can only do a few control questions per exam. But, the more involved you are and the higher your clearance is, the more involved your polygraph's going to be. And for purposes of verifying background information and security clearances, they're very controlling, because the results can effectively deny somebody a clearance or lower their clearance, and that's the end of that, because it's not considered a legal process. It's more of a personnel process, a hiring process, or whatever you want to call it. From a law enforcement perspective, of course, they're not admissible by either side for any purpose, just like in any community. I'm sure when Ken goes to court, they can't use them either, and I think that's good. The reliability is so low, and whether or not the interpretation is accurate. Just so many problems with it, you couldn't possibly use it to adjudicate somebody's level of guilt or whatever in a criminal setting. In my opinion, even a civil setting, if it goes to a core issue, because I've seen so many polygraphs. I've actually watched them be conducted, and I've also looked at the results with the polygraphers to try to learn a little bit about it, because I saw them so often, and obviously I can't figure it out. The experts can have to read, as Ken called it, the Greek. But at the same time, you watch people who think they can beat it by doing certain things that you can read on the internet, that there are certain tricks that people say can help avoid deception or something like that, or make it look like all of your answers are consistent, which means you'd avoid deception. I don't know how accurate that is. Some people will swear by it on those articles, but the bottom line is, as a science, it's just not reliable enough for something that's legal in nature. So going back to 50-game suspension, if it was based on a polygraph in either direction, if you're talking about something that's serious, I'm nervous about it.
Ken's actually in here, and he said in 2016, 9 players were suspended for more than 50 games. In 2017, only 2 were suspended. The next question would be which ones were top-tier players, because I always feel like that the top-tier players...
Oh, well, I mean, let's see. I have the names here. Starling Marty, and I apologize for mispronouncing this game. Yep. He was suspended for 80 games, and David Polanio, Houston Astros.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with either of these gentlemen, but again, I'm not a huge follower of the
80 games. 80 games, I think, means he was caught twice. Then he served 50.
80 games. 2016 looks like it was a pretty bad year.
Was that the year it was instated?
I don't know. They've been, according to this, I can find results going back to 2007. No, scratch that. 2008.
So the 50-game suspension's been in there since 2008. Okay.
Yeah. 2016 was pretty bad. Daniel Stumpf from the Phillies. I remember that one. That was a big one because he threatened to sue the league.
That's good. No, we got some good answers, guys. Good stuff. I don't want to drag on, but I'm just saying that this thing with John Jones is gotten to be. They're looking at it.
Turn up the volume. Let's put it this way. I think now you're going to have people going, what is the definition of knowingly? I mean, let's example, if I go to my trainer and say, hey, give me something to help me recover faster and move faster, but I don't ask him what's in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Is that knowingly, or is that, as R squared referred to as, willful blindness?
Yes. Ignorance.
That's why I think that the leagues have to put it out clearly. If they want to make it the player's responsibility or whomever, then they have to just put it in writing and say, look, whatever you're taking, it's your responsibility to look it up or to ask the right questions, and you're responsible if it comes up as a banned substance.
And in our chat, Robert Resnick says A-Rod probably could have been beaten a poly despite being guilty. Could you explain that?
Oh, I was just more making a joke, but I think that A-Rod was probably one of the most notorious as someone who was got caught multiple times, and he had, I don't think anybody's ever broken his record for the season, suspension that he had, and then he came back after that, and there seems to be, as far as evidence goes, overwhelming evidence of A-Rod using substances, and at the same time, the way he speaks about it, you would probably see him passing a poly because, and again, Diesel talked about sociopathy and psychopathy and all that. I'm not saying that A-Rod is a sociopath, but
pretty darn close.
But my point is his personality is such that he maybe could have been able to beat it, and I think we all know that he deserved what he got.
I hate to say this, but I would say a majority of sports stars could probably pass that test because a lot of your sports stars are on such a level of training and all of that they, and their egos, some of their egos are just way out there and so competitive that I think they could pass a lie detector test. That's my opinion. So let's move on. Good stuff, guys. We actually spent 25 minutes on that. Let's talk about Chelsea Manning real quick. Let's get that in there. She's announced her running for the state senate. Who wants to jump in there, and R squared or Ken, who wants to jump in there and talk about that real quick?
R squared, why don't you lead off? I monopolized the conversation last time.
Oh, well, all right. Look, this is nothing but a joke. If you remember when President Obama did the D.C. Correspondents' Dinner, where, the famous line about Donald Trump, where people said he made a joke. Some people say he's going to run as a Democrat. Some people say he's going to run as a Republican. I thought he was going to run as a joke. And, that's apparently what made Donald Trump want to go after Obama and win election and all that. He was so offended by that. And, of course, running as a joke, you could take that to mean two different things, that he's the joke or his running was a joke. But I think that rings true with Chelsea Manning. Look, Chelsea probably barely even meets the age requirement. You're talking about somebody who is a convicted felon, and not just a convicted felon, but crimes against the United States for, revealing intelligence matters to WikiLeaks. And it's not just about politics. Some people want to praise people like, Manning and our friend over in Russia, and other people who do this as whistleblowers or whatever. But, what people fail to understand is there are lives at stake here, innocent lives at stake, people who are just doing their job in dangerous situations overseas, military and intelligence people who get killed because of something like that, or whose lives are effectively over because of stuff like that. It's not about politics. It's about national security in a very serious and meaningful way. And so Chelsea Manning is not a hero, first of all, but Chelsea Manning remains a convicted felon. President Obama, I've heard this misquoted since the announcement, President Obama did not pardon Manning. Obama commuted the sentence, which basically means letting her out of jail instead of serving the remainder of the 35-year sentence, which was very much deserved for what, I was going to say he because he was a he at the time, but, for what Manning did. So basically this was just a get-out-of-jail card, but it's not a pardon, and Manning remains a convicted felon for national security violations. I don't believe that there is a significant number of people in Maryland that will vote for Manning in the primary and in any election for that matter against Ben Cardin. First of all, Ben Cardin is an effective senator who's very popular in Maryland. I don't see him as vulnerable, and I especially don't see him as vulnerable to Manning. But look, Manning just doesn't offer anything. Put aside the obvious stuff. No experience, no qualifications, no capabilities other than stealing secrets, which is not something you want in Washington. We have enough of that. And so there's really nothing there. This is a publicity stunt by a very confused and disturbed individual who can't figure out what to do with herself since getting out of prison. And look, one of my subordinates was working on the defense when this first happened, and I'm not going to reveal any privilege or confidentiality because I stayed out of that, but I can say that, this was just clearly somebody who had problems before this all came about and, doesn't really offer anything. So the whole thing is just, look, it's a free country. Anybody can run for anything if you meet the minimum requirements, but to me it's really disgusting.
Yeah, it's a joke. Go ahead, you can.
Yeah, look, Osquart done it again, stole all my thunder, said everything I was going to say. Look, if he, she, it, they, them, whatever the proper pronoun to be used in this particular case, didn't have all the publicity surrounding the release of confidential information and the trial and the commutation of sentence, this person wouldn't get 5 minutes of free airtime. They're doing it as a publicity stunt. Maybe they want a reality show. Maybe they want to run a book, whatever. Look, I'm a firm believer that the school laws either complain about a problem or do something about it, but you can't do both. This individual has chosen to throw he, she, its hat in the ring. I commend that, being active in civic affairs. But don't worry, I don't think there's any chance Senator Manning will be sworn in as a senator, in 2019.
Yeah, it's not going to go that route. So let's real quick, 7:30, because we got a lot of football talk to talk about. Let's talk about this past weekend. The emergency broadcast system, someone accidentally sent out a warning that there was a ballistic missile headed for Hawaii and to start evacuation procedures. It went out. I forget exactly the time it went out, but I wouldn't have gotten it because I would have been out cold. But I was actually at work when it went out, and then within 5 minutes, the false alert went out, and then within that half hour, it was actually completely erased from the servers. It was erased from all the. I guess it went over in California, and in Hawaii, it went over the signage that's on the highway. But you know what? When it was cleared up. You didn't think it was that big of a deal. But on Monday morning, when you wake up and you see that now the FCC and the government is involved because they feel that this should have never happened. They said that there are things into place that these type of mistakes should never be made. And where we're in this state of people being worried and upset about, the tensions between us and North Korea, the FCC is taking a real serious look at this, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to come down with an answer, and somebody's either going to lose their job or somebody's going to answer for this from what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what I understand. When I sign on to Xbox, I got to go through, give them a password, verify my identity, give them a blood sample, give them my fingerprints. That's just to get onto Xbox. And you're telling me someone actually hit a button that sends out, oh, by the way, the missiles are coming?
Yeah,
I mean, did anyone else hear this? This is what I heard. Now, maybe this is simply, the famous, Chipotle or spider eggs in the bubble gum type thing. Was apparently, this is what I was told, that there was some guy working overnight, and he went to press one button, and he was either too tired or didn't know what he was doing, and pressed another button. That's what happened. It was on his desk. These two buttons were right next to each other.
I doubt that.
No, he's right. He's right. The folks in the emergency management center there in Honolulu, they had a change of shift, and apparently what they do is when they do change of shift, and this was the overnight shift.
Yes.
But when they change shift, they do an internal drill to make sure that everything's working and everybody's ready. It's probably a good practice to have. And this employee who did get fired pushed the wrong button. And he pushed the button that sent the message out externally instead of just internally within their organization there to do it, to do their drill. And so, unfortunately, the bigger problem wasn't just that. The bigger problem was that the system hadn't been updated in a while because it hasn't been used in generations, and there was no off switch. There was no way to turn it off. It took them 38 minutes to withdraw the message. And by that time, people in Hawaii, as you saw in the news, were running around panicking, trying to get to a shelter, thinking this must be real because of everything going on with North Korea. And so, it had an unfortunate impact because of the timing. But, it was just, multiple things went wrong, and this person maybe deserved to lose his job. I don't know how easy it is to push the wrong button or, how careful they're supposed to be. It goes to standard of care there. But certainly with all the aftermath that happened, somebody has to get fired, and there may be more coming.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason why I saw it, because most of us were sleeping when it went out. The only reason why I saw it, because I'm at work at Logan on the overnights, and to be honest, I'd be one of the people who were dead, because when I first saw it come over my text, it made that funky ass sound that it makes when you have an emergency broadcast or an Amber Alert. And you know what? I didn't really even pay attention to it because I was like, wait a minute, this can't be right. And I completely ignored it. And then when it came over afterwards and said it was a false alarm, I'm like, holy shit, what if that was real? Because I had ignored the first one. And then, like I said, it was completely gone from the server. So I know the FCC or whoever handles these EBS messages and stuff, they made sure that this was completely gone from everybody's phones. It was gone from everywhere. So to see one guy get fired, maybe that's a good thing to see the one guy get fired. I feel for this guy because I'm not going to lie. I've worked the overnights. I've done some things when I'm tired, when I go out on the roll call and I forget to bring certain tools or something, or I forget to, lock the 4-wheel drive on the truck or something. I've done it. I've gone to work tired after having a long day. So I feel for the guy because it does happen. I'm just surprised that that system is just that simple where you can make that type of error, to be honest.
Well, I agree. I think what this is exposed is not only a individual problem, but a systemic problem. I mean, Thank God they realized it. It sounds like they realized it very quickly that it had happened. What happened if they didn't realize it? They didn't realize it'd gone out over, the externally supposed to internally.
Well, I don't want to crap all over Hawaii, but we're kind of lucky that it was just Hawaii because it's just an island. It's not. Imagine if that was something that went out nationwide. Now imagine how big this would have been.
Oh, good.
But there is a safeguard there because Homeland Security and DOD pick it up immediately when that happens, and they knew that it wasn't valid instantly because they weren't tracking anything. So they knew it was an error of one kind or another, whether it was a computer error or a human error. They prevented it from going out anywhere else in the country.
R-Squared just answered my next question because some of the right off the bat, before these stories and these answers came out, the conspiracy theorists were already over it, and they were saying that there was a missile launch and it was shot down. These tinfoil hat guys and women out there. So I'm glad R-Squared you brought that up because that was actually my next question. How do you shut?
Well, sure, that's what the deep state wants you to think.
See, I knew there was somebody out there because I seen it. It popped all up on Facebook. They came out real quick. They were out there. Oh no, it was a missile. It was shot down over here, and oh, this person seen it crash in the water, and blah 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 blah. So the government come out and said they weren't tracking anything. There was nothing launched. This was just a simple error, and I believe it. I don't believe that. I don't believe there are some things that conspiracy theorists have put out there that I believe, but this one here, I don't believe it. So.
What were those conspiracy guys from the old X-Files, those two guys that had a spin-off?
Mulder and Scully.
No, those are
the three guys.
The lone gunman. The three guys from the lone gunman, yeah.
The lone gunman put it out.
Right, exactly. There you go.
So, good stuff. So, we're at 7:30. Before we get into this NFL talk, let's just say that the overuse of the word shithole in the past few days, I didn't even really, to be honest, I really didn't even want to talk about it tonight because it has just been, I have never seen a word I mean, it's to the point now where they're pointing fingers at who was in the room, and now you've got people that I'm going to let R-Squared because you were very vocal on this because there were certain Republicans that they lied. They said he didn't say it, while there were other people where they were like, come on, he said it. We all heard it. So I'm going to let R-Squared get into this real quick. We're just going to touch base on this real quick because it's just been beat the hell up.
I'll make a quick point, and I'll defer to Diesel on the immigration issues because he's our expert on immigration law. But the thing that bothered me wasn't even so much the comment, although I did write the blog piece for the booth on that, just because it's evidence of what he thinks about immigration. But the comment itself wasn't that big of a deal. If any other president said it, or if Donald Trump said it in any other setting, I think people would have just brushed it off. The problem was that Lindsey Graham, who we've been critical of lately with some of this DOJ stuff, corrected the president on the spot. That's what a statesman and a leader is supposed to do. He, and according to some of the testimony on the Hill today, he actually went at him a little bit on it, got heated himself in trying to correct the president doing that. So kudos to Senator Graham, who I've been very critical of lately. And Senator Durbin, of course, came out and said, yeah, that's exactly what happened. I don't know who talked about it to the Washington Post, but once they reported it publicly, Durbin and Graham pretty much confirmed that that's what happened. The problem that we have here, the thing that gets me about this more than anything else, is Senators Cotton and Perdue of Arkansas and Georgia, respectively. Here's the thing. First of all, they both know what the president said. There's no difference between shithole and shithouse. So the initial thing they tried to do is say, well, that's why, we may have a difference. No. They heard whatever they heard the same darn thing. And it doesn't matter which way it went on that. So that's just more deception and lies. Diesel was giving me a hard time earlier in the week when I got upset about this, but here's the thing. Okay, I know politicians lie, and politicians minimize, and they spin, and they cover for each other. We all know that. That's part of the system. The thing that gets me is that this was a simple statement. He said it. It was out there in the news. There were witnesses, and it wasn't just the four of them. There were plenty of other people in the room. Obviously, one of them leaked it. It wasn't one of the senators who leaked it to the Post. And so it was clearly out there. At that point, if they wanted to support the president, then just minimize it and spin it. Oh, it wasn't a big deal. It was a private conversation. It was getting heated. Whatever you want to say, nobody's going to care. The difference is they went off on Senator Durbin and attacked his credibility and his character in a really awful way. And they made it beyond just this one thing. They said, his whole reputation and history is dishonest. I mean, when they knew that what they were saying was completely dishonest. And it really bothers me to see two senators do that, especially when you have their own fellow Republican doing the right thing right there in the room before they even open their mouths. And one other thing I'll say, and then I'll stop, is Senator Cotton it really surprised me because he was a military officer. He left the Army as a captain to go back to Arkansas and begin his political career. And I know that all officers know from day one, and you hear it throughout your career, and when you become senior enough, you instill it in your subordinates. You never, ever sacrifice your integrity or your character for any particular issue, because once you do that, you never get it back. And I know as an officer, he heard that over and over again, and he just broke the cardinal rule for something stupid as just the president using a colorful phrase. Shame on him, Senator Cotton, and I'd love to see him bounced out of the Senate for it.
Woo, wow, Ken?
And I'm the one who gets accused of being full-on diesel?
Oh, good stuff. You got anything
Okay,
to add?
no. I'm going to go. I got to go on this because, excuse me, I practice immigration law. I am the grandson of 4 immigrants, okay, who came from one of those shithole countries that the president talks about back in the day. All right? No, it was incredibly racist. That's exactly, and don't try to say it wasn't, because it was.
It was.
All right? So him trying to use a colorful phrase, no, you walking pieces of garbage. And by the way, this wasn't a private meeting. This was a meeting between the President of the United States and the leaders on immigration reform from both parties having a meeting, which, by the way, under the Presidential Records Act of 1975, you're required to take notes of the meeting and make them available to the public. All right? So don't say this was a goddamn private meeting, because it wasn't!
No, hang on. I'm not saying that that's what they said. What I was saying was, rather than outright lie about a clear statement that everybody heard him say, they would have a little bit more credibility if they were trying to put a spin on it to minimize it. I'm not saying that they would be right, and I'm not saying we would all fall for it. But I'm just saying the outright lie where they say he absolutely didn't say it and then just did a character assassination of Durbin is the worst form of
don't misunderstand me. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, because Senator Dick Durbin is one of the most veteran men in the Senate. Because you may not agree with him 100% of the time, and I certainly do. But he comes out and he'll tell you what it is. If he's going to call, poor choice of words, I definitely won't use that phrase. But if something is whatever it is, he's going to say it, whether he likes it or not. And he was very careful of doing the full context of what the president was saying. He didn't truncate the phraseology people were saying. He said, look, we were discussing a limitation or elimination of the diversity visa lottery and taking those visas and distributing them to certain underserved countries like Haiti and certain African countries, which was a proposal that the Congressional Black Caucus had come up with. And then Trump goes on this whole tirade, well, why are we getting people from those shithole countries like Haiti? Why don't we get more people from Norway? Okay? So Durbin put it in context. And oh, by the way, while we're on it, something that disgusted me more than anything else, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security denied knowing if Norway was majority white or not. And I'm not so sure why we should fire her for either lying about it or being incompetent.
Yeah, she was awful. Her testimony
don't
was just
belong
awful.
doing your job. Ugh. Excuse me. Point my happy place.
Senator Booker made a name for himself. He went off on her big time today, and it's getting coverage all over the national news. It was really something to see.
Yeah, a lot of these people are getting bashed. I just saw Sarah Huckabee is also taking a brutal beating because her kid ordered an $80 Batman toy off the Alexa, and the purchase went through. And it's like, well, to be honest, as a parent, if you keep your credit card information in your Alexa to make purchases easy, and you have a 2-year-old or an 8-year-old or any type of kid, you should have it password or PIN protected. So if a purchase is made, you may have to say a PIN number or put a PIN number in so that purchase doesn't go through. I have teenage kids, and I still have my Xbox Live account password protected because I don't want nobody ordering stuff that they should not be ordering. So shame on Sarah Huckabee. The reason why she's also taking the beating is because she used her White House Twitter account to complain to Amazon and their Alexa over this. So she's taking a big beating because she's using her White House Twitter account for personal reasons, they're saying. So,
which is a violation of government ethics rules.
Oh, it is. Oh, so it is a big deal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because she's taking a beat right now.
Because when I worked on the Hill eons ago. Back then was the first time when I worked on the Hill many years ago. I had a government email account, and that was a very big deal because those were we did not you didn't have like 16 email accounts, and we were especially given in our training that we were not allowed to use like government email accounts for any personal business, even something as innocuous as sending an email to a friend, hey, you want to meet up for dinner.
I thought the bashing she was getting was overkill.
No, if any government Twitter or email can only be used for government business.
Oh yeah, because has she gotten the title of press secretary yet? Is she officially our press secretary?
Officially the press secretary, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, okay. So now I understand why she's taking the beating that she's taking.
Right,
like
exactly.
she's getting annihilated right now.
Because you got to remember, under the Presidential Records Act of '75, which I talked to before, anything done on a government computer or automatically becomes the property of the U.S. government. That's why they can keep the records forever, so you can't delete it. So that tweet is now property of the U.S. government and must be archived.
Yeah, you see that when you go to all these people's verified Twitter accounts. So, guys, we're at 7:46. We got to get into this discussion. We had some great playoff games this weekend. The Patriots game was a little entertaining for the first quarter, but once they got out by 21 points at the half, that game was just all but a memory, like we all had said here last week it was going to turn out to be. We were all sitting here worried when the Titans went up 7-0, but the only news to come out of this win, it looks like we may be losing Matt Patricia to the Lions, and it looks like we may be losing Josh to the Indianapolis Colts, but it's unconfirmed at this time.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, going to the Matrix. I heard we're losing McDaniels to New York, specifically the Giants.
No, the Giants are looking at and
I heard
Shermer from with Minnesota.
Okay, I thought Patricia was going to the Colts.
No. Patricia is actually interviewing with the Detroit Lions for their head coaching position, and Josh McDaniels, it was announced last night that he may be talking to the Colts. I don't see Josh McDaniels going anywhere. He knows where his bread is buttered here. I do see Matt Patricia probably going out and testing the waters because he hasn't done so yet. Belichick doesn't really frown upon it, so I could see him letting him go and maybe letting him come back if it doesn't.
Well, Josh McDaniels was the head coach of Denver for a couple of years.
Yeah, he was, and he hated it. It was a complete utter failure, and he had to come back. He was tied up in that whole thing with the quarterback controversy where they shipped off what's his name to Chicago, and it was ugly. It was real ugly. And
he also didn't get along with John Elway, who was a control freak.
Yes, and that was another issue too. So let's get into these games because we had these games this past weekend, and to be honest, everybody got their money's worth, other than the Patriots game that everybody knew. But other than that, you got your money's worth. You had a ton of lead changes in all three games, and all three games came right down to the wire, kept you right on your edge of your seat. And let's look at this Pittsburgh game first. The Pittsburgh Steelers game opens up, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are already talking about the New England Patriots before this Jacksonville game, which we all said this Jacksonville game, you can't look past these guys, and they did. I hate to say it, they did. They looked past the Jacksonville Jaguars. They also had some piss-poor play calling, and I put this loss on Mike Tomlin's shoulders. And that's all I got to say about this game. I'll let you guys talk about this game.
Square, do you want to go first? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, no, I don't think Mike Tomlin's responsible for this. I think it's an across-the-board failure on everybody in the Pittsburgh organization, from the owners on down to the water boy. Like you said, they were looking past the Jaguars. They weren't giving them any credibility, and they were concentrating on New England. That offensive line had enough holes in it; it looked like Swiss cheese. Roethlisberger, remember, how we say in New England, ball security is job security?
Yeah.
Roethlisberger, after the first 4 times he was sacked, should have, when he felt that rush coming in, he should have doubled over and protected the ball. And that Pittsburgh's defense, now, going back to the 70s, Pittsburgh has always won games with their defense. Back to the Steel Curtain defense in the 70s and 80s, the Blitzburg of the late 80s, 90s, and the Killer Bees. That's what Pittsburgh's known for. And I don't know what happened. Did the defense, take a day off? Or they get a mani-pedi? Whatever. They weren't dominating Jacksonville. And when you don't dominate a team like Jacksonville, you're going to get burned.
Well, that's
sorry.
Well, that's like I said, week one, Jacksonville had 10 sacks. And we said this from week one. This is a team that I don't care what week it is. If you can get 10 sacks in week one, that's a defense you're going to have to watch. Right. And even though Jacksonville had some soft these last 3 games, we knew that the real Jacksonville was going to come back.
And remember, Jacksonville blew a 21-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
They were leading 21-0 going into later sections of the second half.
Well, because Antonio Brown started
vengeance.
Well, Antonio Brown started to play out of his mind, for Christ's sake.
So remember, they only lost by a field goal. So I give Pittsburgh a lot of credit. I think if Pittsburgh had woken up, 10 minutes earlier in the game, Pittsburgh may have just eked out a victory.
Yeah, but one man can't beat a team, and like I said, Antonio Brown was the team that got. Antonio Brown was that guy who got this team back. That one-handed catch in the end zone was just.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. No, great. Antonio Brown earned his pay that day. No question about that.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Stephon Diggs this weekend at the end of that Vikings game, we'd all still be talking about the Antonio Brown one-handed catch. Go ahead, R-Squared.
Well, I would say this. It was nice to see Antonio Brown back. I don't think anybody thought he could come back this season, so it was nice to see him get healthy and make a contribution in the game. So that was good, especially for those, Pittsburgh's fans. The other thing is Jacksonville is not a bad team. They've had a really good season. They were hungry. They were fighting. The last few weeks were disappointing because they had solidified where they were going to be, but they're a really good, hungry team, and they showed it the way they came out there in Pittsburgh and took a big lead. I will say this, Sinister One, I think your comment about Mike Tomlin, there's merit to it in this. Towards at the end of the game, when Pittsburgh had the choice to do an onside kick or to pin them deep, and they had their timeouts plus the 2-minute warning, they chose to do an onside kick. Jacksonville got it and kicked a field goal and effectively put the game away. If Pittsburgh had pinned them deep and stopped them, and they do have a great defense, even though they didn't play that well. I mean, the defense clearly let them down. But if the defense did its job after a real kickoff, they might have the whole thing may have gone down differently. So to some extent, you can put that on the coach. But the team fell apart. They weren't ready. Diesel's right. They weren't ready. You feel bad. You don't want to see somebody go down that way, but somebody has to win. Congratulations, Jacksonville. And I think it's going to be an excellent game in New England next week.
Cool. So let's get into this Atlanta Falcons game, who, Atlanta, everybody thought that they were going to be back into the big show. I said no. I said they'll be in the playoffs, but I knew they weren't going to get back to the big show. They go into Philadelphia, and you know what? The fans in Philly came for this game. The fans were there for all 4 quarters. And it looks like they've now broken a record on Amazon. The Philadelphia Eagle fans have ordered all these dog masks that the offensive line guys were putting on after the game. So the Philadelphia organization is going to allow all the fans to wear those dog masks for this upcoming NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings. I was feeling this game. I picked the Eagles to win. I'm just surprised that it was such a close game, guys. And I'll move on and let Ken say what he's got to say.
I'm not surprised. I've said this all season long. The Eagles are a good team, but they are not as good as their record. They played a lot of sub-500 teams. They played a lot of games where they got all the breaks. Look, I was really impressed with how well the Eagles played under pressure. Atlanta clearly came there to win. They had something to prove for after the debacle last year at the Super Bowl, and they were not giving up anything. Any yard, any first down, any score, Philadelphia, they had to do it the old-fashioned way. They had to earn it. So my hat's off to Philadelphia. I didn't think they could play up to the level they played. I was wrong. Well, all I can say, Sister One of your boys a big Eagle fan, hey, he actually may have something there for once.
Yeah, he's feeling it, and he's not looking past Minnesota. He watched that Minnesota game, and you know what? He knows what they've got in for him. R-squared?
I've been trying to say since Wentz went out hurt, which really set back the team, I've been trying to say that at least Nick Foles doesn't stink. He could be a starting quarterback on a lot of teams, even though he's not good enough to start at Philadelphia, considering they have Wentz. But, I think if Did that make a difference in this game? I think it did. I mean, conditions were rough. Both teams struggled with the throwing game for a while because of the wind. Atlanta surely came to play. I give them a lot of credit. They were ready. Philadelphia got off to a slow start, but they got it done thanks to that crowd. So I give them credit for winning. I don't know. I guess we're going to get to our pick soon, but I'm not sure what Philadelphia's going to do this next game. I'm just not sure.
I think the 12th man, and we're going to get into that. I think the 12th man is going to play into this, but let's get into this last and final playoff game to review. This was the game. This was, if you had to end your playoff season on television with probably what is going to be the best finish ever, this Minnesota Vikings New Orleans Saints game is going to be a win of historic fashion. I was sat here watching this game right to the end. If you were to tell me that Stephon Diggs was going to come over two defenders, make this reception, come down inbounds on 1 foot, and be able to prop one hand down to keep his balance and take it off 62 yards of the end zone, I would say that's a Hollywood story. That's not going to happen, but it did. It happened just like that, and this is why you play the games right to the final minute. Great game all the way through. It was, you know what I had a problem with? I had a problem with seeing this offensive line of the New Orleans Saints give up those sacks. I don't think I've ever seen Drew Brees in a situation where he had to be under such pressure and take as many sacks as he did. I thought that surprised me in this game. The running game was pretty much relevant. Both these guys were throwing the hell out of the ball in this game, and like I said, it came down to that last play with 10 seconds on the clock, 62-yard reception by Stephon Diggs, and it's a historic win. And I don't know, guys, when was the last time you've seen the Purple People Eater fans this fired up? They're one game away from having a Super Bowl in their home stadium. It's the team that's the home to Tom Clancy. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and it's been a long time since we've seen the Purple People Eaters fired up like this, guys.
Well, to answer your question, the last time they were that fired up, Fran Tarkenton was their quarterback. And for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, he was one of the first marquee quarterbacks in the early 70s. I don't know if he's even alive anymore. He may have passed away. I don't know. That's how long ago it was.
He might have. He was the host of That's Incredible for the longest time.
Exactly, with Kathy Lee and
he
David.
might have passed away by now. I'd have to Google and look that up. Go ahead.
Well, all I can say is anytime you have a playoff game where the lead changes 5 times in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in a local establishment in Melrose. I just popped in. I didn't see the first half. I walked in because I wanted to see if a friend of mine was there. He wasn't, but I sat down and ordered myself some bar food, some other stuff, and I started watching the game. And I figured, I'll watch it for a couple of minutes. I did not leave my seat.
Yeah.
For the entire second half.
Yep. Very entertaining.
I don't believe that, and that catch I think ranks up right there with the immaculate reception.
Yep. Yeah.
I did not think it was possible. All I can say is, Minnesota, I don't know what soul you sold to what evil god, but
well, here's the other problem. Here's the other problem with that. Casey Keenum, he played his butt off again, and they've got a problem. They've got Teddy Bridgewater down there, and they definitely not going to let Teddy Bridgewater get that starting quarterback spot back. So I already said, R-squared, if you're a guy that's looking for a quarterback, do you bring Teddy Bridgewater over to friggin' the Giants and send Eli Manning on his way? No?
No.
All right, so I'm going to let you review this game and give you your thoughts why you don't want Teddy Bridgewater in New York.
Okay. This was one of the games of the century. I mean, it was just an amazing thing. First of all, Minnesota, they have one of the best defenses in the league this season. So I was surprised at how often they got to Drew Brees, but they are a top defense, and so they showed up and they played real hard. Both teams played real hard. Here's the thing, though, about that finish. Everybody saw it, and everybody's focused on Diggs, and it was an amazing catch, and he kept his focus and his balance, and he got into the end zone. Good on him because time was done. The thing is, the person I wouldn't want to be is the safety Williams for New Orleans. He blew that coverage worse than anybody I have ever seen blow coverage. Now, he is a rookie. However, he had an amazing season, so he didn't play like a rookie, and people were expecting big things from him. But if you watch the replay over and over again, I don't know what he was thinking. On one hand, it looked like he went way too early for an interception, which you don't need. If they make the tackle or push him out of bounds, game over. So you didn't have to worry about intercepting or knocking the ball down. All they had to do was tackle him or knock him out of bounds, if he even caught the ball. But Williams, he jumps early. Then he comes down and he goes. It looks like he wants to just knock him down at the legs. As you try to take out a good running back, when you take him out at the legs. And so again, all they had to do was grab him. And so I don't want to blame it on one person, especially a rookie, but that was the worst blown coverage I've ever seen. At a time when he didn't have to do much to end the game, and he did the worst possible thing he could. So that's all credit to Case Keenum and Diggs for making that happen. But my goodness, that was a complete failure of the safety.
Yeah, there was nobody else there. I'm hearing a lot of the guys who have knowledge of the game. Some of these guys are blaming the rule changes in the NFL, and they're saying that he second-guessed. He didn't want to hit a so-called defenseless receiver if he didn't make that pass complete. He was worried about that. He may have been worried about that.
Fair enough.
They were saying he was worried about being called for pass interference because he hadn't looked back for the ball like he should have. But sometimes, in my opinion, you have to take that penalty. We saw this in the Pittsburgh-Jacksonville game where a Pittsburgh lineman pulled down, I forget the gentleman's name, who picked off Ben Roethlisberger's pass, and he pulled him down with a horse collar tackle and took the penalty for horse collar tackle. That right there is a good penalty. Why? Because if he doesn't make that horse collar tackle in that game, which was close, that was a pick six. There was nobody else there to defend that. So you've got to make that penalty in that type of situation. So you have good penalties sometimes. It's tough. I hate to be Williams and have to go through the rest of this offseason overthinking this over and over again. And Stephon Diggs, he could be that guy that just made the catch of the century, and he may never catch a pass like that ever again. So I don't know. It's great stuff. And quickly, I got to have you answer. Teddy Bridgewater, why would you not want him at the Giants?
Well, look, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I'd like to see him get a chance to play in the NFL. He has had a lot of injury problems, so I think it's a big risk. If you're going to pick him up, you got to have a ready-to-go, backup quarterback or primary quarterback. Depends which role you give to Bridgewater. I don't like him for the Giants, not because of anything about him, but because what the Giants need to do, and we've been talking about this all season, is they need to draft the future quarterback of the team, their future franchise quarterback. And I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater can fill that role. They need to draft somebody. If they don't draft somebody, they got to look really hard at picking the right person to fill that role. Eli is effectively done. He can play another year or two. I hope he does it well and healthy while their new quarterback learns like they're supposed to. Eli got thrown in a little early because Warner got hurt. And that worked out for him. He was sort of ready to go. He's pedigreed, and he had at least part of a season to get ready. And we don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see Eli go down hurt, but he could play for another year, maybe two. And if they pick up somebody that can learn from him for a year or two, then that's the right way to do that transition, and that's what I want to see the Giants do. If they're going to lose Eli, there are some teams that are looking at him. It depends. We had talked about maybe Jacksonville, although right now they don't seem to need a lot of help, but I think that's a good fit. We'll see. Maybe Eli leaves early and they can't go with the pure rookie. They've got to bring somebody in for a couple of years, and then maybe Bridgewater might be that gap filler for a year or two, but I wouldn't do that as the primary plan.
Yeah, I would say still draft a quarterback. I've always felt the Giants were 2 years behind on drafting. They should have drafted a quarterback 2 years ago. My feeling, because Eli was trash. He's had these moments of brilliance, but I felt they should have had a quarterback 2 years ago. So let's get into these weekend's game, and then we can get out of here. Let's start off with the NFC Championship game. The Minnesota Vikings are heading to Philadelphia. If this game was played in Minnesota, sorry, Ty, I'd have to give this game to Minnesota. That Minnesota crowd was just out of their minds. The Minnesota team is ready to play in front of their home fans to get this home Super Bowl. But now, in order to get a home Super Bowl, you've got to go to Lincoln Financial Field, where they just dumped every last bit of their money into Amazon, buying these dog heads, that stadium is going to be packed. Out of all the games this weekend, Minnesota and the Eagles had the best fan base for their games. I'm sorry, Patriots fans have gotten corporate. Our fan base has been horrible for the last 5 years. I hate to say it, but it has been. It's a shame what we have down there for a fan base in New England. And that's just speaking from the heart. These Eagle fans are going to be fired up. I think this game will be decided by the 12th man. It's going to be decided on turnovers and defense. And I think that's how the Eagles are going to win this game. And LeGarrette Blount was running the ball like a madman again, real strong. I think they win this with a run game. I think they're going to have I think they're going to throw the ball as least as possible. I think that it's a ground and pound game and go to the air only when needed. And I think the Eagles will squeak this out at home by 3. R-squared?
I agree with everything you said, but I'm going to pick Minnesota by 5. And the reason is, yes, it's going to be a great 12th man, but Philadelphia just hasn't been able to hit on all cylinders. They barely beat Atlanta, who I know is a good team, but it wasn't an impressive win as far as how they played. Minnesota, they got by New Orleans, who's a very tough team, and it took some heroics at the end, but I think they're ready to play. I think that it is going to be turnovers. I think Minnesota gets a couple more turnovers than the Eagles get, and that's the difference in the game. And so that's how I'm going to pick it. I will say this, though, as a caveat. I know we don't caveat, so I'm picking Minnesota. But based on the weather, if it's really sloppy weather, then I think it may shift back to the Eagles because of the 12th man and that neither team can execute. Yeah. But straight up, I have to go Minnesota on the road in an upset by 5.
Ken?
You're both wrong, okay?
We split the pick. What are you talking about? How are we both wrong?
Well, R-square is wrong about the team, and you're wrong about how close it's going to be. This is not going to be close. Minnesota, even though they are in the Great White North, is a dome stadium team. So was New Orleans. They're coming into an open weather stadium, and it's going to be freaking brutally cold. Okay? I am sorry. Minnesota used up all their tricks and all their luck at the last game. Philadelphia is hungry. These are the 2000 Patriots. They can taste it. They're either going to the Super Bowl or they're taking everybody with them. It's going to be a bloody game. My man, Blunt Force Trauma, is out for blood. I think they're going to air it out a little more than you're giving them credit for, but the combination of Minnesota having to play on the road, play in cold weather, playing in Philadelphia has managed to find ways to win. I'm going with Philadelphia by at least a touchdown, possibly 10 points.
I hope you're right, Ken, because I said all season this is going to be Philadelphia's year, but I haven't liked them under Foles, even though I've defended his ability to play, and I think that makes the difference. But I hope you're right for the Eagles' sake and their fan base. I really do. They're long overdue.
And later on that night, we have the AFC Championship game. Me and Ken would be considered fanboys. So I'm going to let our man R-squared go first. An outside view on this. We've got the New England Patriots here. They've secured that home field yet again. And this is a record-breaking AFC Championship appearance for the Patriots. And look, this Jacksonville team is coming in here. And let's remember, the whole Patriots march to being a dynasty started when the Jacksonville Jaguars upset the Denver Broncos as an expansion team, and then they had to come here, and the Patriots beat the Jaguars to play the Steelers in the AFC Championship to go on to New Orleans and play New Orleans. So I'm going to let R-squared go first because this game worries me.
I think the Patriots win. There's no hesitation there in picking them to win. I think unlike Pittsburgh, they're going to be ready for Jacksonville. First of all, there's no other – well, they've got to be ready for the Super Bowl, but I don't think they're going to look past Jacksonville. I think they're going to be ready for the game. This is where Belichick's experience, Brady's experience, and everything else is going to take hold over Jacksonville's inexperience. I think it's going to be probably a good game. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but if Jacksonville gets behind early, it could be over. Look, either team could win. I don't think Jacksonville is is some kind of a mistake or an accident or anything like that. I've said all along, I think they're a very good team, but I don't think they're going to match up well. I think the Patriots are ready. They've done this before. They know what it takes. I think they're thrilled that they don't have to play Pittsburgh, but they're not going to look past Jacksonville. It's the Patriots Super Bowl.
Ken?
Real simple. I like to personally thank the Pittsburgh Steelers for sending the entire league a wake-up call. There's no question about it. They took one for the team. Pittsburgh did. I think it showed everybody in the Patriots organization that Jacksonville is a team that came here to play. They are not going to underestimate Jacksonville, which is unfortunately for Jacksonville a big problem.
Yep.
I think what you saw in the Jacksonville-Pittsburgh game was the exact same thing you saw when the Patriots played the Giants in that Super Bowl. And the Giants came to play, and Pittsburgh was looking at the perfect season, and Giants handed them their lunch. Okay? They're not going to make this. New England's not going to make the same mistake twice. Number one. Number two, you're playing in Foxborough. It's a nasty, cold stadium. I don't care. You know, I understand Jacksonville's riding high. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. I agree with you since the one. I think our fan base has gone totally corporate. I couldn't agree with you more. But it's still Foxborough. And it's still a nasty place to play. Brady is looking good. He's also got incredible offensive weapons. Look what he's got. He's got Amendola, the guy who seems to be every place and no place all at once. He's got Cooks. He's got Gronkowski. He's got Gillespie. He's got Lewis. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, for all I know, they could. Nate Solder could score another touchdown. Jacksonville's going to put up one hell of a fight. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. It's not going to be a 35-14 game. Sorry, Patriots Nation. I think the Patriots will control the game. I don't think it's a blowout. They'll be up by 7 points only.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, okay, so Ken just rattled off some names, and I'm just going to get into this right now. Our Patriots, they're playing at home. And usually our fan base does come alive for these games, and they've got to stay on their feet for this entire game to let these Jacksonville Jaguars that are coming in here know that they're in for a game. Now, we've already gotten some locker room fodder because at the end of the game, one of the players from the Jacksonville Jaguars went out there and announced that they are going to the Super Bowl and they're going to win that bitch. So, again, calmer. You don't look past the Patriots. You never look past the Patriots. And they take this type of stuff and they eat it up. Now, we're talking about weapons. Ton of weapons out there for the Patriots this weekend. And it was just announced yesterday that the running back Rex Burkhead is playing in this weekend's game. For those who've been following the Patriots all season long, Rex Burkhead has been a big part of this offense in red zone situations. This is a guy who replaced LeGarrette Blount. He's a guy that loves to drop his head. He loves to pound the ball. He's got good hands. He can get to the outside. The Patriots won this weekend pretty much without Gronkowski having a big game. Gronkowski's due to have that big game. But here's the problem. Jacksonville's got a great defense. Like I said, they opened up week one with 10 sacks. Here's what you're probably going to have to do. You're probably going to have to use a lot of two tight end sets, which means Gronkowski's probably going to have to be back to block a few times. But I think once the Patriots game plan gets into motion and if they can stop this rush, I'm looking for the Patriots to win this ball with a balanced attack this weekend. I think the Patriots are going to win with a balanced run attack. I think they're going to get 100 yards on the ground, and I think Brady's going to throw for about 300 yards in this game. And we talked about, let's go back to Pittsburgh. Let's go back to Week 16 when Mike Tomlin released linebacker James Harrison. And right then and there, that locker room was divided in Pittsburgh. There was a lot of people who came out and they weren't happy with the way that was done. How do you let a player of that caliber go to a championship team in Week 16? You just outright release him. He came and played for the Pats for 1 week. The Patriots are paying him $45,000. The Pittsburgh Steelers are now out of the playoffs. Are you trying not to tell me that James Harrison is sitting there saying it would be nothing better to win this AFC championship game against a team that was one of my bitter rivals when I was in Pittsburgh and go to the Super Bowl and get a ring in the same year that his team dropped him? I think you're going to see major play from James Harrison this game. I think the Patriots win this game by 14 points. But you still have to worry about the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I think the Patriots take this game by 14 points. And I think you're going to see a balanced attack. I think Rex Burkhead coming back is big. And I think James Harrison. And I think, and you guys know this, when you have a veteran player like James Harrison on defense, this is a guy that you drop into the system and you don't have to worry about. He's not going to make those mistakes that a second or third year player is going to make, which is what they had in this situation before James Harrison got here, which is why this defense has gotten better in the last 2 weeks. You're allowed to do these things that you didn't have because you have a veteran there now in James Harrison. That drop, that release, and that signing, I don't think people really realize how big this was in football. Ken, I'm going to let you, because you follow football. I mean, I'm going to let you guys talk about it. I don't think people really realize how big this is as far as defense.
I think they're realizing it now. It's one of those slow burn activities. I actually, believe it or not, when I first heard about it, I thought someone was pranking me.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of those things where they put out make sure you read it all the way down. Facebook things where they make sure you read it all the way down before you comment. And I was convinced I was being pranked. Because there's no way they're going to release James Harrison, and there's no way the Patriots are going to be able to pick him up. It ain't freaking happening. And this is like the burn of the week. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is like...
Go ahead, finish.
I'm sorry. This is like, suspending Brady for 4 games last year, and he comes back and wins the Super Bowl. Yeah. The only way this gets better is if the AFC Championship game were between the Steelers and the Patriots, and James Harrison has like 5 sacks. That's the only way this gets any better.
And it's still good because he's going up against a team that he knows well, and he's had some dogfight games. And R-Squared, you're on the outside looking in. When that all went down in Week 16 and James Harrison was released, and the Patriots, Belichick swooped right in, quickly picked him up. I know you had to be like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a great move for the Patriots, and I don't know if the Steelers didn't think that he would go to the Patriots and that he would just go someplace where it wouldn't make a difference. It's hard to know if they thought it through. It was clearly a controversial decision. I mean, the problem started well before that. They picked Harrison back up out of retirement to fill a need. This season, he really thought he was going to play. He claims that they represented to him that they needed him to play. He never wanted to sit on the bench, that he was going to have significant minutes, and that didn't develop. And so there was a lot of internal stuff in the locker room, as you've mentioned in other scenarios there too. And, so Harrison wanted to be released. I don't think he ever realized he'd get on with the Patriots and go contend for another Super Bowl. Be, a great way for him to end his career, I guess. But I'm sure he would have preferred to end it with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. It's a bigger deal than I think. I think everybody who knows sports, who follows sports, and knows the intricacies of defense and offense, they know how big this has been because it's allowed Matt Patricia to do a lot of different things with his safeties and his inside and outside linebackers when you've got a guy like James Harrison that's in the fold. And the thing is too, he picked up the system. Because the Patriots system here is tough. That's the biggest complaint here when they bring in players and they say, you got to get the system. If you can't get this system, you're out. You're gone. But
James Harrison is a guy who's been looking at that system from the outside or the opposite line of scrimmage, whatever you want to call it, for years.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's suddenly, it's a babe in the woods and never seen the system before. Well, so I think he may have a little bit of an edge over most other people.
We'll see. Like I said, if this guy finishes the game with at least 2 sacks this weekend, it's gonna go. It's gonna be brought up, and trust me, it's gonna be talked about in Pittsburgh if he has more than 2 sacks and he contributes to this win this weekend over Jacksonville, which, like I said, that's a rival. That's a Pittsburgh Steelers rival team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's just gonna really go down the Pittsburgh Steelers fans the wrong way, but. Guys, 8:20. We ran a little bit over, but we had to get this talking here about these playoff games. Actually, these divisional championship games that are coming up on Sunday. It's going to be nice having a Saturday to ourselves. No football, but we got snow on the way tomorrow. So, guys, batten down the hatches. They're talking. I think they said 4-7 for us, something like that. You know what? 4-7 isn't that bad. I don't know why all of a sudden 4-7. Since when did 4-7 become a snowstorm, Ken? Here in New England, He used to be terrible.
Since weather became... But no, I'll tell you why. Because we all become freaking drama queens. All right? Man the freak up, okay? Screw your balls on tight. You're a New Englander. Stop whining like you live in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, damn. That's across the bow of R squared down there. His feelings are hurt.
Hey, no, I mean, Diesel and I were chatting earlier.
Yeah, that's why I said...
I missed the winter.
Actually, that was a segue to something R squared and I were talking about earlier. I was suggesting his blood had gotten a little thin. He needed to come back up here and, reconnect with his people.
Well, it's funny because, as we get ready to get off the air, we're talking about we have this pre-production chat that we have on our phones, and we go into this group on Facebook that we chat and we talk about stuff. And me and Ken were going back and forth over the emergency broadcast system thing, and he was like, "Well, why did you get it?" And I'm like, "Because I signed up for it." And then he's like, "Well, why?" And then I just put, jokingly, I said, "Because I want to be ready for when the zombie apocalypse comes."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to be caught with my pants down. I want that alert. When that alert comes across and it tells you that people are eating brains or coming back from the dead, dude, I do not look. I don't want to be caught with my pants down. I want that alert across all of my mobile devices. I want to be able to head to the first nearest place where I can get guns and a heavy piece of equipment. See, I work at Logan, so I can just automatically just take a bus. If the zombie...
See, I'm already one step ahead of you. I got the shotgun, I got the shotgun double-out Bach, They want to come.
I'm coming to get you. I'm grabbing the 60-foot
bus.
There we go, because I'm not
going to be
fired.
Get the Kevlar, get some, we got to find some glass bottles because the plastic bottles won't work. You throw a plastic Molotov cocktail in the plastic bottle, bounce off the guys.
Yeah.
We need to take care of some business here, old school.
I'm grabbing a 60-foot bus and...
Yeah, exactly. Got to drill on some, metal bars on the side.
Yeah.
Get one of those crash bars in the front.
Yeah.
Some flat tires. Hey, we're taking care of business here.
Yep. Got to get the kids,
baby.
Get the family, put them on the bus, and we're out. Because I don't want to be caught. The CDC has, and it's awesome because I tell people this all the time. Like, the CDC has a plan for zombie apocalypse. No, they don't. And I'm like, dude, go to the CDC website, and they have a plan. And they said the reason why they came up with this plan is because they thought about it. They actually sat down, and after the success of The Walking Dead, the CDC sat down and said, you know what? We should draw up a scenario for this in case it does happen. And they did. And the funny thing was they have a sense of humor. They actually released it on April Fool's 2 years ago. The CDC released the zombie apocalypse scenario. And people thought it was, when people saw it on April 1st, they thought it was a joke. And they thought, oh, great joke. And then when the CDC had their press conference, they said, no, this is a real plan. We thought about it, and they put it out there. They want you to be...
I don't believe this, because I actually thought that was crap. So I just Googled...
No. When you go on the CDC
went there,
website...
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention...
Yep.
Zombie preparedness.
That's right.
I cannot believe that. This is how we're spending our money.
Okay, let's have real quick before we get out of here. You're in the government.
Oh my God.
You're in the government.
Zombie preparedness blog. Zombie preparedness for educators.
Let the man answer, because lots of times the government already knows about zombie shit long before the public knows. In all the movies, the zombies always are made because of the military. Something is spilled or something is shipped to the wrong place. So, R squared, you got to say something on this one.
Well,
should we be prepared? Should we still? Do you think the CDC is right in doing something like that?
Well, of course you have to be prepared. Here's why. Because if you notice, the ending of these movies is always the same. The government launches a tactical nuke and blows up the entire metropolitan area of where the outbreak occurred. And so if you're not prepared, you're going to get flamed.
Well, actually, that actually backfired. That happened in the end of...
Hey, you notice that's not a denial. Did you notice that was not a denial?
But
there's some things I just can't tell you.
See, that's even more scary coming from a JAG officer who spent. Nah, see, I don't see. I'm staying prepared.
No, he only tells us he's a JAG officer.
I'm staying prepared.
Legend,
I'm not playing any games. I've been ever since my dad made me watch Night of the Living Dead. Zombie movies have been that's my biggest fear. I love watching the movies. I love watching everything associated with zombies, but my biggest fear is having to live through a zombie apocalypse and If I have to prepare for it, I'm preparing for it. I'm sorry. I'm just.
We need to head to Vermont. There you go.
And if they're fast zombies, like in the Dawn of the Dead remake, I'm committing suicide. I hate to say it. I'm not dealing with fast running zombies. If they're slow, knock them over zombies and walk around them zombies, I'm good. I can survive. But running zombies, look, I don't run now for shit. So I'm not. I'm dead. I'm gonna be like the dude cardio. I don't have good cardio, so I'm dead right off the bat if there's fast zombies.
Dude, that's it. We're putting on your cardio program. You're starting running.
Ken, you're fatter than me. You're going too.
Well, I'm on a cardio program. I've been running at the gym. I go up for a half hour now. But I run a half hour. But here's the thing you need to understand about fast zombies.
Mm-hmm.
They are very good in a quarter-mile dead ahead, but they don't run side to side very well. So you got to put your Deion Lewis, do a hesitation move. Go to the left,
Break their ankles?
Right, exactly.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm heading to the nearest zoo, and I'm unleashing vultures and have vultures attack.
Right, so zombie vultures.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
No, zombies should be the meal of vultures. Vultures should be all over
what
zombies.
Happens but they eat the zombies. Don't they turn into zombies? Let's go. Contaminated food supply?
Well,
think of that, did you? Huh?
Different movies, different scenarios. In some movies, if you eat the zombie, you don't. So we'd have to add that. We'd have to figure that.
That's why you need to burn the bodies. Kill the virus.
Burning has always been the thing. Like I just watched this movie.
I need a flamethrower. I mean, let's face it.
I just watched Train to Busan. This was a Korean horror movie, and in this movie, shooting the zombies in the head didn't work. I didn't like that movie. They were fast zombies, and headshots did not work. You had to dismember the zombie.
What?
Yeah, Train to Busan. It's a Korean horror movie. Shooting them in the head did not work.
Every zombie movie I've ever seen, headshots take them out. That's what you got to light them on fire or knock off their heads.
World War Z. World War Z.
Yeah, in Z Nation. I don't know if you watch Z Nation, but in the last season of that, they had the new super zombies or whatever they called them, the whatever, and headshots didn't work anymore. It worked for the first few seasons, but all of a sudden they had these super strong, super fast zombies that you had to dismember them.
Yeah, see, they got that from Train to Busan, because that's where that came from. Train to Busan.
Damn it.
Put that zombie out.
All right, now I got to get my flamethrower.
Yep, see? That's
my katana.
Yeah, so, guys, 8:30, we got to get out of here. Good stuff. Let's go around the horn and say our goodbyes, and we'll let our square go first.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Another good show. Appreciate it. Good luck to our football teams next week. Well, at least one of them's playing, and one of them's drafting, so we'll see how it goes. So still good luck to everybody, and remember, let's hold the government accountable.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Ken?
Big shout-out to all of our listeners, all 12 of them. Big shout-out to my partner in crime, my friend for over 40 years, Lisa Kilgore. She turned 51 this past Saturday. Happy birthday. And to Patriots Nation, buckle in, boys and girls. It's going to be rough, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, everybody that's heading out to Gillette, let's bring it old school. Let's bring that 12th man back for this game. Let's go. Stop being corporate. Keep your hands up in the air. Let's hear those voices. Stop drinking your coffees and your Starbucks and sitting down in your seats. Let's be loud on defense. Let's get it going. Other than that, everybody who's tuned into the show on Facebook Live, Flo Jackson, what's up, what's going on, Ricky Fitz, good stuff. Other than that, I got to get out of here. SpongeBob, do me a favor. Take us home.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for tuning into the booth at Whoobazoo.com. Please make sure to tune in for more booth next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time. Become a fan on their Facebook page and check out their podcast on iTunes and iHeartRadio. The Booth is a Sinister One production hosted by Sinister One, Ken Diesel, and R Squared.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.